We've got a word up here, required. Can we say that word? Required. It has a little footnote, number 2. Let's look down here. It says is needed or is necessary. I'm going to read the first sentence on the top of the page. Follow with your eyes in track. The lawmaking process in the United States refers to the steps required for a bill to become a law. Go. The lawmaking process in the United States refers to the steps required for a bill to become a law. So we actually have the lawmaking process right here. We said process was steps. So these are the steps. We have 5 steps right here. Now, this first bullet, this word is bill. Have you ever heard the word bill? Do you pay a bill when you go to a restaurant?
Yes.
Sometimes say birds have bills, like their beaks. That is not what bill means today. Bill is a total new word today. Bill is something put together in Congress. And let's read what a bill is. Ready to go. A bill is a written proposal for a new law. So the bill is a proposal. Now the word proposal means what? A suggestion. I'm proposing we should probably do this. It's not a law. So can you highlight a couple things here? Bill, proposal. Can you highlight those two? Let's read the second bullet. A law is a rule that people in a country must obey. So in Congress, when you put a bill together, that's a written thing. I think this should be a law. Once it's approved, it becomes a law, and we all have to obey it. Look all the way at the bottom. You see where it says describe the difference? Does everybody see that? Let's read the question together. Go. Describe the difference between a bill and a law. Look at the words you highlighted up here and tell your neighbors what the difference. B's go first, and then A's. Now, I heard some of you just read a bill is this, a law is, and some of you said it in your own words. Don't just read back the two. Pair share one more time. Go. The difference. Tell me the difference between a bill and a law in your own words.
A bill is where you write something on a paper, but it's not actually going to be a law. And a law is where people must obey.
The law is the one that's already been approved that we have to obey. We have the lawmaking process. Let's read what's it called? Lawmaking process. Okay, so let's read. Oh, this word is draft. Can you say that word? Draft. Have you ever written essays for your teacher? And the teacher says, take your first draft and rewrite it again. Isn't that what it means? It's like the first version. Let's look at the definition, number 3. Let's read it together. Where is it? Ready, go. Write an early version. So it's kind of the first one you write. So let's read together to make a law. The step 1. Ready, go. Someone decides that there needs to be a new law and drafts a bill. Okay, so why don't we just highlight a few words here? Someone decides, new law, drafts a bill. Now let's look at this example down here on the bottom of the page. Elizabeth Small, a former kidnapping victim. Have you heard the word kidnapping? That's when somebody comes up. I think the word kid isn't like a child. Originally was what somebody came up and stole a child. I think kidnapping now could be an adult. It could be anybody. Okay, so this girl was kidnapped. So she decided we should have a law about arresting kidnappers. So she drafted a bill. So what did she do? She wrote up her ideas of what it should be, right? That's what it should be. Okay, let's read step 2. I think we need to read this with a little more, it's called porosity. We're going to read it with emotion. Listen, I'm going to say it. The bill is introduced into the House of Representatives or the Senate. Let's see if we can kind of accent that last part. Ready, go. The bill is introduced into the House of Representatives or the Senate. So step 2, first we write a proposal, then what? Someone in Congress has to officially stand up and say, we should do this. Let's have the B partner explain, what do those 2 steps mean? What are those first 2 steps? Ricky.
First, someone decides.
Don't just read it. You can look at the page.
Someone decides to make a new law.
Sure. Someone says, we should have a new law. Then what do we have to do second?
Send it to a senator.
Sure. It has to go to a what? Representative or a Senate. Did you highlight some things in number 2? Highlight. Bill is introduced. Can you do that? Introduced, House or Senate. This word is debate. Can we say the word? Debate. Let's look at the footnote. What does number 4 say? Discuss. Can you just write in here with your pencil, argue? Debate something, what we're going to argue about it. We're going to discuss it. Is this a good idea or not? And sometimes we argue about it, but other times we just discuss the pros and cons, whether we're in favor of it or against it. Let's read step 3. Ready to go. The House and the Senate debate the bill. Let's just highlight debate. We don't want to highlight the whole thing. Debate means we're going to what? Discuss or argue it. This word, I want you to look, what's that first letter? V. Now I want you to listen carefully because there's another word that sounds like boat. Boat is something you do in the water. This is vote with a V. Now I want you to look at my lips. When you say a V, look at this. Vote. Let's all say the word. And I want to see your teeth over. Put your teeth over here. Ready? Vote. Let me hear that buzz. Everybody go. Vote. Okay. Say vote to your neighbor twice. Vote. Okay. So let's read. Ready to go. The House and the Senate vote on the bill. So this step, what? We argue about it for a while, then we say, okay, raise your hand, we're going to take a vote. So why don't you highlight the next one is vote. Why don't you put and approve? For to become a law, they may not approve every bill, but to become a law, they must vote and approve to become a law. Now let's read step 5. Ready to go. The President of the United States must sign the bill for it to become a law. Let's highlight this. President must sign. So if we look at step 4 and step 5, this is what? The House and the Senate must approve and the President must approve. I think we have a question here. What is the difference? What is the difference between step 4 and step 5 of the law-making process? So let's have the A's explain. What does step 4 and 5 mean, and what's the difference between those? What are those steps? All right, I think we're ready. Juan M. What's the difference between step 4 and 5?
Step 4 is that they're saying they're checking how many people want this law and who don't, and 5 is that if they approve of that law, that the president must sign it to be obeyed.
Okay, so the difference is Congress has to approve it, and who else has to approve it? The President. Everybody has to approve. Okay, great. Okay, let's do the next one. Now, we said the word vote. How do we say vote with our teeth? Vote. Okay, we have a new word called veto. Let's say the word veto. Now, point to the word on the page. I want you to look at the word and say it twice to your partner. Go. Veto. Veto. Okay. Veto means he can refuse to sign it and cancel it. So even though Congress passed it, let's read what it says. Go. The President can veto the bill to stop it from becoming a law. So even though Congress approves it, if the President doesn't sign it, doesn't approve it, it's done. Okay? Even though Congress approved it, there's ways to get around this. We'll read about that in another day. But for today, the basic process, Congress and the President must sign it. Okay, let's have the A's explain to B. What does this mean when it says the President can veto a bill? What does that mean? Okay, now let's look back at our little example here on the page. Elizabeth Smart was kidnapped. We should have a law that she what? Decide there should be a law. What's the next step? Introduce. What did she do? She went to the senator, and the senator took her paper and introduced it. Okay, the next one. Let's read her next step. Go. The bill was debated by the Senate and the House. That's right here, debated. Now, what's the next one? Let's read it. The bill passed a vote by both the Senate and the House. Step 5, who has to approve next? The President. And if you read down here, in April 2003, the President signed the law. Okay, so this is an exact example of what happened right here. Notice something interesting. This actually came from a person, not from a congressman, or it actually came from some person in society. Okay, now one more question. Let's have the A's go first and then the B's. Explain this whole process. And I don't mean read the 5 steps. I mean explain to your partner. For example, you might say, well, first someone decides we need to have a law. Then you have to go to someone in Congress. They have to produce the law. Then after that, they argue and debate about it. Then they take a vote. And if that's approved, then the President does it. But the President might cancel it. So see if you can explain to your partner. Look at some words you highlighted. You should be able to do it just with what you highlighted. Let's have the A's go first. Explain the whole process in your own words. The whole lawmaking process. Okay, the other partner hasn't talked. Switch. I want to hear the other partner say something too. So you are now going to describe the lawmaking process. You should at least start your sentence with the lawmaking process is. Joseph.
The lawmaking process of the United States, like first someone decides to make a law, so they write the bill, and then they show it to the representatives or the sins.
Or senator. Great.
Senator. And then they debate if they want it in there, and then they start voting all in favor who wants this to be a law. After that, they show it to the president, and if the president doesn't want it to be the law, he just doesn't sign it, or he does and makes it a law.
He doesn't. It's called, oh, let's give him a round of applause. That was a great answer. All right. I think you got everything in there. Okay, one more person for the same one, then we're going to go on to the next page. Sierra, who's that?
For the lawmaking process, first someone thinks that there should be a new law, so they have to write a bill. The second step is that they have to go to the House of Representatives or the Senate, and they have to introduce it.
Right.
The third step is that the House and the Senate have to debate over the bill why they should have it or why they shouldn't have it. The fourth step is that they vote on the bill and try to approve it. The fifth step is that the president can sign the law if he thinks it's good, or he can veto it to stop it.
Oh, let's give her a round of applause. Good job. Okay. This is what you should be able to say when you go home tonight to explain this whole process. We'll practice this one more time before we're done. Let's go on to the next page.